What's the topic for today?
Security and specifically application security. I think that's something that as a leader, as a tech leader, everybody needs to think of, and probably in different stages. Your appetite for risk is different, and I hope that we can shed some light on this, on at least how we are understanding this.
Yeah, that's an important topic. And I mean, what types of security do we have? So you already mentioned application security. This is
Yes.
CTO business, like the application developers putting some libraries, assembling some code, sending data between, I don't know, the user and the backend, HTTPS, those kind of things. Is that correct?
This is what I would like to spend most of the time on, but application security is only a subset of something that I would rather call information security. And probably you could even extend it through like physical, like access security, like, oh, who do I let into my building? But it starts with like, yeah, not just who I let into my building, but what do I do with my computers? Who has access to my computers? Do I need to have like a physical key, or do I have a username and password? This is already something that is part of information security, and it all has different, let's say, easiness on how to exploit that. I don't know if you are aware of this, but I think like currently the most um, let's say dangerous activities that we have are not that, oh, somebody sends a worm or a Trojan or whatever that is, but rather that people are like, I don't know, finding a USB stick somewhere on the streets and then just plugging it into in their computer to see what's on it, and boom, there's a security breach. And ideally, you don't do this at home, but you do this, of course, in the company's computer, because like you wouldn't never do this at home, would you? And then the whole network suddenly is infected. So at least that's my last standing. But with the rise of AI, maybe application security will soon be the one that becomes even
Yeah.
more dangerous.
So the USB stick stays as relevant as ever, but then you have application security and someone creating like very bad tools using AI on top of that. But coming back to the USB key, I mean, we are now trained to just click on, hey, accept this device to access my computer. Yes, no, yes, accept, yes, accept. I accept the cookie. I accept the USB key. I accept the USB whatever question mark accesses my device, because of course you can also embed like a tech device inside a USB cable, right? So you have just a USB cable, looks like a USB cable, works as a USB cable, but it's basically like a Trojan virus built into the USB cable as a controller, but then forwards everything to the cable, which looks normal, but then you have something installed in the laptop. Super easy. And do you have like training courses, or how do you train your workforce against those kind of threats?
Yeah.
Because like that's real, right? You find those devices on parking spaces next to Google, next to Apple, next to maybe your company. Um, how do you raise awareness?
Yeah. So let me maybe start a little bit differently, because what you just said is already an implication in there that there is a training. And I 100% believe in this, because I believe that security is not something that you bolt on to something that is existing, but it's rather something that you have to instill into the mindset of every individual. Like, is what I'm planning to do now a secure action? Am I endangering myself or others if I do this? And in application security, we're sometimes are saying we're trying to move security, we're shifting security to the left, meaning that we want to integrate security considerations already very, very early into the design process, and basically embed it into the whole software development lifecycle. So that's why we're calling it a secure software development lifecycle. And the way how to do that is through training. You start with a mindset, like create the mindset of like, the world, as much as we want to be a beautiful and non-dangerous place, is actually a dangerous place, and there are threat actors or malicious people with malicious intent, and they try to exploit things that you are using and you're doing. And first thing that we're doing is create awareness. So there is like a very very simple but mandatory training for all of our engineers. Every year it gets repeated, where we're asking some I would say simple questions, but very, very important questions. And that's why we're doing this, to create the awareness that these things exist. Let me be careful, the things, because it's also evolving.
Yeah. And is it only engineers, or is it the whole company that has to know this?
Yeah, and that's the difference between application security and information security. Information security is relevant like for the whole company. Like, oh, you get an email. What do you do with this email? There's somebody you're finding out that you have a rich uncle from Nigeria that's unfortunately passed, but now is giving you all of the millions of dollars that they have, and you click on the link, and that's already a point where you need some training, that if it sounds too good to be true, then probably it is too good to be true, and somebody else just wants to mess with you.
Yeah. So we have the information security for all the company, and then like we zoom into the engineering departments, which then is the application security.
Right.
That's how you see this.
Right.
Yeah. This makes total sense. For the application security, I mean, how do you raise the awareness that it is actually important? Because the nasty thing about security is that you don't notice immediately when it's not secure, right? It's just, I mean, unsafe passwords or missing security best practices in your front end development or back end development. Yeah, you don't notice this immediately, but how do you preemptively raise awareness? And as a CTO, you have to basically get money and resources to spend on security. So how would you do this? And yeah, how how would you do this?
It depends.
It depends.
I'm repeating myself here. It depends, because I believe that, I think I've mentioned this in one of our other episodes, is like there's a risk that everyone's taking when they're building a product. By investing into this, or let's say by defining how much you're investing into this. And when you're a startup and you didn't find product market fit yet, and you are active maybe in the, I don't know, dating industry or something, or it's not something that is highly regulated like finance or medical environment, then maybe your appetite for risk, and also the appetite of your customers for using your product, because they know you're a startup and they don't really think much or don't care so much about if their personal identifiable data gets leaked or something, then you may not invest so much in this, and you don't care so much about this in the very beginning, because you care about finding a product that is actually loved by the customers, so that you can actually generate some money. But the moment that you have found this, and I'm not saying this is the way how you should do it, but I got to learn quite a few founders are thinking in that way, and I'm not blaming them. I'm not saying that this is the way how I would do it, but it's the reality that I see. And when you're coming to a position where you're saying, now security is important, now suddenly something happened which needs you to rethink this whole thing. Well, you already mentioned one thing: providing money for this, providing time for this is already a very important part, because like if you're asking people to do something but you're not giving them a mandate or giving them resources to work in this way, it's already a bad signal. So you have to provide this mandate and the resources. And then is the question, what do you do with this money? And there's a lot of tooling. There's tooling that you can use, and there's like a lot of support that you can already get out there. Like let's look at something like supply chain attacks. What's a supply chain attack?
What's a supply chain attack? So look this up. It's when a logistics company. No, that's wrong. The supply chain. I mean, they were in the press lately quite frequently, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all our software kind of we depend on each other, right? We depend on open source libraries, and we have to pull them somewhere from the internet, right? Somewhere, and that's true for Rust, that's true for Go, that's true for Java, that's true for like Python as well, and of course JavaScript as well. And
Especially JavaScript.
especially JavaScript, yeah. And in the news, we had a lot of instances where, for instance, for JavaScript, we had malicious actors replacing libraries that thousands of of companies use and pull each and every day, replace those libraries with, for instance, let's say a Bitcoin mining library that then mines Bitcoin instead of rendering I don't know what. That's not too bad. It's just Bitcoin, it's slower and whatever. But when it becomes really malicious is when this library is used to just copy and paste your env environment, your passwords, and sends them to a server in a very strange nation, right? Um,
Right.
and we have to face it. If you're developing software, and you have secrets somewhere, and maybe you have your AWS secrets in your root folder of your user directory, and this is then, this is a very nice target for hackers. And supply chain attacks, libraries you pull, that's one of the prime ways how you can do this. And I have to also admit, like, one thing that has changed is that I was always told, don't execute anything that you get from the internet. Be very cautious about this.
Yes.
And what we do nowadays is we have bash scripts that execute bash scripts in the internet, right? So we just say, hey, curl bash, do this. So we execute stuff that installs something on our laptop that's on some kind of distant server. And I think this is very, very, I still don't do this and find this very strange way, but most of the libraries or many of the applications these days work that way. You just execute a distant bash script. I think this is very dangerous because if you change one line there, it has full access to your laptop, right? It just executes something. You don't know what it does. Very, very interesting
Yeah.
approach. But yeah, so this is basically a supply chain attack. And the question is, how can we guard against supply chain attacks?
And there are
Right.
tools for that. There are
There are
tools.
tools for
I mean, the ecosystem of our, or let's say, software engineering has become an ecosystem. It's more like using Legos, and instead of rewriting something that somebody else has already done, we have these libraries that we're including. It makes us faster, and it's a good thing. But we have to somehow ensure that what we are integrating doesn't have any vulnerabilities, and is doing actually what we want it to do. And there's like there are tools that are helping us identifying this. Like, first of all, there's a central database, which is like keeping track of vulnerabilities, so-called CVEs. And the maintainers of the libraries are paying attention, because, like, when somebody finds a vulnerability, obviously they want to close it as fast as possible as a serious developer of such a library. And then they create a new version of it. And then this new version is available, but you don't know about it. You don't know that the version that you have been using of this library is outdated and it has a vulnerability. And there are tools in the market that are helping you to identify that.
What tools?
Oh, there are many tools. I'm not being paid by any one of them, just as a disclaimer here. But so far, I've worked with Sneak, with a Y, and I've also worked with GitHub Dependabot. And why they're like promising and delivering way more than that, like the one thing that I used with them the most is the scanning of all of our libraries and finding out if we have vulnerabilities, because it checks against the version that we have installed with the library, and if there's a newer version, and if there's a vulnerability in there. And then if there's a vulnerability, it tells me, hey, there's a vulnerability. And if there is a patch, if there's a newer version of it, it also tells me, hey, you need to install this new version. It even can go as far as to provide you the pull request with everything prepared to just, you need to click a button, you merge it, and then you can deploy it. And if you're super fancy, you just automate the whole thing because you created enough tests in your system that allows you to sleep lightly, sleep deeply overnight, because you trust your system that if there's something broken, it won't ship it to production.
Yeah, but that's not very Snyk and Dependabot. That's two things. And then again, both services cost money at scale.
Yes.
And actually fixing those things also costs you money, because it's not about, sometimes it's just a pull request and you do something. But more often than that, it's, hey, you have to look at some changed APIs that come with the upgraded library, and something that you have to adapt, and then you have to test that it's really still working that way. So so it costs you real money. And so this is actually when we go back to where we started. So at some point as a CTO, you have your roadmap, and you have a task on your roadmap. Hey, we have to upgrade X and Y. And then your CEO or your product colleague comes and says, hey, this sounds like this has no business value at all, right? So why do we do this at all? And then it's like, yeah, we have to increase security. But yeah, I mean, we are secure enough. We don't have any security breaches right now. But what I found quite useful, and this is something I've learned from a colleague, Robin, who founded Cydia in London, is really pricing the impact of CVEs. So if you say, okay, we have this CVE in that library, um, if this gets exploited, we will have this amount of damage, right? So you have a price tag. You say, okay, if we don't do this, there is this damage. This amount of damage is basically invisible in our P&L, but it's there. So we have to really get rid of that.
Wow.
And so you get some monetary values, and this is how you can communicate very easily with a business and also a board.
Do you know how he calculates these?
Yeah, that's a good question. And this is where it gets tricky when the board asks questions. How do you calculate? Why is this like 9,944?
Yeah.
There is some value. I mean, you have security breaches that happened in the past, and you can clearly see what influence these security breaches had on the company valuation in terms of stock market value, in terms of lost revenue, and so on. So you have kind of a feeling what it will cost you now to fix this. And these values, you can average them, and you can turn them around and mix them. And then you have something, if it's kind of similar to that, then we have that amount of damage that's lurking somewhere. And this is roughly how it works. And what I've also learned is that like owners of companies, especially if it comes to, let's say, private equity companies, they are very, very interested in reducing the risk, because they want to sell the company after a couple of years. And if the company value drops massively because you had a security incident, that's not really good for PE. That's not what PE wants. So PE companies are very interested in those numbers, and they want to have like a high awareness of security. And so that's why these companies are very, very supportive in establishing a good security post for a company.
So it's more like an approximation. The money value. It's not
Yeah.
like you can't take it like as is,
No.
but it's based on findings from similar vulnerabilities and the damage that they created.
Exactly. You have a company with a revenue of X, and you have a security vulnerability that allows you to have remote access under certain circumstances. Like in a similarly real security incident, this has cost a company of similar size Y, or US dollars Y. And so you can translate this to your company and can clearly communicate, hey, this will cost us this amount of money. I would recommend not paying this and not having this in our invisible P&L, but rather fixing this. And this is a good way. And usually, again, the board is on your side if you do this as a CTO.
Okay.
That's kind of interesting. Yes, but and then you also get the money, and this is where we started. This is how you get the money for tools like Sneak and Dependabot and a ton of other tools.
There are many tools.
They will cost you money. You get the money if you reduce this risk for the owners and for your company. Yeah.
Have you heard me say a fool with a tool is still a fool?
It is. I heard you saying this.
The thing that I always tell people to do first, and I learned this from a good friend of mine who's very, very deeply into the security area. And as a disclaimer, I'm not. But he always tells me, you first have to know what you have. You need to have something like an asset inventory. You have to understand what are the artifacts that actually are running, that you are running in production. And then as a second step, you need to figure out how important are they for your business. And so what he tells me is create a tiering system. It can be as simple as, is it containing PII, personal identifiable information? Thank you. And is it exposed to the internet? And then you have like basically 4 quadrants, and if you answer yes to both of these things, then probably this should go into your tier 1, which means like the most important thing. And if you find some vulnerability in there, fix it first. And then if the answer yes, it runs in production, but it's not exposed to the internet, and no, it doesn't run any personal identifiable information, PII, then it has the lowest tier 4. And that's the thing where many people are like already struggling with, because they don't know, because they have engineers, and many engineers are building a lot of things, and we need to get production running. We need to build this feature. We need to ship it. It needs to work. But then if you ask them like, what's actually going on here, you sometimes get crickets, or maybe only half of the reality. So when you are serious about understanding the security posture that you have and improving it, you have to start with understanding what you have.
Yeah, I would totally agree. What also helped me quite a lot is making things visible, and this is also what you mentioned. So, because you don't do this only on your own. You know that, hey, we have like 5 servers that are not really well maintained. That's super, super bad. But hey, write down the servers, use the tiering system. That's a really, really good remark. Use the tiering system, and if you have like servers that are super, super important to you, and you mention that, hey, we have to fix them. So we have 5 servers, like 0 of them is fixed. And you can use this to manage this. You put it on the wall. You tell this, like your team in the first quarter, we want to fix like 30% of the unmaintained services. Manage this, but you can also use this for with your C-level colleagues or on the board, right? So right now we have like 0% of the services are maintained, and then over time, first month, second month, third month, you go to, hey, 100% of our services are now well maintained. We don't have any security risks or known with security risks right now. Went from 0 to 100, big success. So super, super important thing. What I also found quite interesting, you told us about your friend that knows a lot more about security.
Yes,
So
definitely.
does this actually mean that modern companies need? So is it a task of the CTO or the, let's say, the SVP engineering to own security, or do you always need like a CISO colleague to manage this and to own this, and to have someone that keeps you on your toes as a CTO and as application engineers, and is kind of the annoying person that always tells you, hey, we looked into this and that service. How do you do this? What's the recommendation? Can we CTOs and technical people do this?
I think there's a short answer is, I think there's an accountability that I see with us as software engineering leaders. We have to build security in. Just that we need to have testability, and quality needs to be built in. And just like we need to make sure that things are running reliably and can scale, that's all within our accountability. Just how do we get there? I believe we need experts, and I have never worked with a CISO,
Yeah. Oh,
Chief Information Security Officer. I've never worked with one, but I've worked with security experts. And in the past, they were reporting to me, or they were reporting directly to the CTO. But their job was to figure out what we want, and also to support the teams in the training, and support the teams in building these things. Because like as I said, I don't want security to be bolted on. There's maybe the possibility that you have like your engineering teams over here, they build stuff, and then they throw it over the fence to the quality engineers or the quality assurance people, and then they test it, and then they move on to the security people, and they laugh at what you have built and say like you have to start from scratch because uh, you missed I don't know, a cross-site scripting vulnerability or something, or you built something in that shouldn't be built in there. I don't want this. I want this to be built in from the very beginning. So having experts that are training the engineers, that are maybe also together with engineering creating policies, like we want to achieve this, okay, let's write it down, this is what we want to achieve, so that we can hold ourselves accountable against it. That needs to be done and supported by experts. I don't know if I really answered your question because I'm kind of dodging it.
No, that's I think that's a really good answer. So first of all, it's of course the responsibility of the CTO. I think it also depends on the size of the company. So if you have hundreds of thousands of employees, you likely will have like a chief information security officer. If you have like 10 engineers, you likely don't need one, right? So there is a difference. And like in your case, if you have a smaller engine, well, if you have an engineering organization of, let's say, 100 engineers, what I found quite useful is having someone that is responsible for security, maybe as part-time job, as part of as a leader
Right.
of the, let's say, security chapter. And then you have security champions inside each of the teams, and they talk to the security champion that leads the chapter, or to the security expert, sorry. They talk to each other. And so you have this security awareness in all the teams, and you have in each of the teams, you have one person responsible for that. We have a sync up to the CTO. And this is one way how you can, like in a soft way, introduce security as a topic and the awareness inside these organizations. Really useful.
I love that.
Yeah.
Is the security champion a separate role? Like, are you hiring a security champion, or how do you do that?
Yeah, good question. So I think you can do both. Both can work. It depends on the capabilities of the person. In that case, um, the security champion is, in most of the cases, a security champion is a regular engineer that's kind of interested in the topic of security and working
Right.
in one of the teams, right? So it's anyway a person that knows about OWASP, that likes to hack around a little bit and knows about how you can exploit HTTP requests from the front end to the back end, and has this kind of awareness. So these are your champions inside of the teams. And then you have a security expert that kind of leads them, um, or
Or like a
at least syncs with them.
influential leader,
Yeah, yeah,
than a like
exactly.
a I have the mandate because I have the stripe
Yeah.
on my shoulder.
I mean, maybe going back, what is a chapter? You have teams that contribute to one of the product areas, stream aligned teams. And then sometimes you have concerns that are important across all the teams, like
Right.
security. Security is something that's important for all the teams.
Right.
And so you have maybe a regular meeting once a week, 1 hour, where all the security um, kind of champions, one person, they meet with in one room, and they have an agenda. They talk about important news. Let's say supply chain attacks that had happened in JavaScript last week, and make sure that that's not a case or an issue for us in each of the teams, right? And so often we have the security champions inside the teams, and then you have one person leading those security champions, like influential leader, and that person can be either the chief information security officer, or in smaller companies, this can be actually the CTO sometimes. Sometimes it's one of the security champions that does this because he's more experienced. And sometimes this is like a slightly, let's say, lower role, not a chief information security officer, but someone that is on a, like, let's say, VP level and has to focus on security, not only application security, and in our case, but also on the whole security posture of the company. And
Right.
this includes the USB keys in the parking lots, right?
Right.
So that's one way how you can do this. But if you don't have a chief information security officer, having the security champions, having a security chapter can be beneficial, and a soft way and a good way to introduce this.
Right. And I'm doing something similar, so I can relate.
Yeah.
You just mentioned something that I think we have not explained yet. You said I think you said OWASP.
OWASP, yeah.
What's OWASP?
What's OWASP? I don't know if you really pronounced this correctly, but so the OWASP top 10 are very, or top 12, is it top 10 or top 12?
Normally, I talk about the top 10. Yes.
There are more to them, but
Yes.
these are the prime ways how software gets compromised. And it's an organization that on a yearly basis updates the most important security vulnerabilities of software and how you can guide against them. And so you have this top 10 list, you have more to them, and you have them for different areas. You have them for software, you have them for hardware, you have them for different areas. And this is something you can use as a boilerplate, so to say, to harden your systems. So are we really like considering the top 10 security vulnerabilities of software? Are we actually safe against them, against being hacked? And it's a really good starting point.
So that's where your training could start. Train the people to understand the top 10 OWASP vulnerabilities. I think cross-site scripting is still on there. SQL injection is still on there. Like stuff that probably many people have heard about. And if you start training them in how to avoid this or how to identify this in their artifacts, I think you're already on a good
Yes.
road.
And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So OWASP is really well known, and there are security trainings based on OWASP, so you can just buy the security training. It's not very expensive, and you have a very positive impact on your whole organization.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So a fool with a tool is still a fool. That's something that I said. And there are many, many other tools that people can use. I don't know if you heard about the Burp Suite.
The Burp Suite, I heard about them. Do you use it?
I personally don't use it. My friend is using it, and he tells me great things about it. But again, there are many, many tools that help you in increasing or improving your security posture. And some of them are more defensive. Have you heard about this blue teaming and red teaming?
Yes.
And some of them are more on the offensive side. And some of them are trying to find these vulnerabilities actively and tell you about them before someone else does, and then help you in identifying and closing them. So what's red teaming and blue teaming? Red teaming and blue teaming is something that is being used in the sense of understanding who is an attacker and who's a defender. Normally, the blue teams are the defending teams, and the red teams are the attacking teams. And when you're looking for people that are helping you in your security posture, normally you would start for blue teamers. You would start for people that are on the defending side. But there are many companies, especially big companies, that also have their own red teams. And they basically ask them to attack and try to breach security within defined defined areas. Guardrails. Thank you. But still, they're asking them to like, okay, see if you can find a vulnerability, see if you can breach our system, so that we can fix it as fast as possible. And normally, like if you are starting with this whole thing, I would rather look for people that are like on the blue team, and there are people actually that you can hire that would do the red teaming for you. It's called penetration testing. Have you heard about penetration testing already?
Never.
Never.
I'm joking. Of course I know about testing. So this is one of the, I guess, best practices, to have someone external testing your systems in a hopefully good way, and to give you an independent list of things that are actually not okay that you can then fix proactively. And I think the rule of thumb is to have a penetration test being done once a year, right? So
once a year. I like that.
And another rule of thumb is to not always use the same penetration test agency, but to always use a new one, so you get a new perspective. Because if one penetration test agency that does it every year, they get kind of used to it, right? They do always the same stuff. But if you have a different agency doing this each and every year, then you have different angles, different attack vectors, and different things you can learn from that. So super important, I guess.
That's sound advice. I'm working with an agency which is actually switching the penetration testers. So I'm still working with the same company, but it's different people doing the penetration tests, so that they don't get used to exactly what you just described. So,
and I mean, the next step that is also very important for companies is having like a security certification that you can pin on your website. So there is ISO 27001, there is SOC 2, and a couple of others. And the nice thing about this is, like, first of all, some companies need this. So if you have business customers, or if you're supplying stuff to the military, you will have to have those certifications, right? And but on the other hand, it's also very nice for the company yourself and for you as a CTO, because they will tell you what to implement, what kind of documentation you have to have, and making sure that your are up to date each and every year and get recertified successfully each and every year means that you have a certain kind of minimal security posture in place that you can post somewhere that has a positive business impact. And then it also is also very visible on the, let's say, board level and in the end also for the company valuation, right? Something's right if you get the certification, and that's a good thing. So I would always recommend doing this and getting those certifications. This always sounds like a huge amount of work, but it's actually not. You can prepare for that, and there are also agencies that help you to get the initial certifications up and running.
Right.
It's really not a huge amount of work you have to put into if you have the right people helping you, and the business outcome is really tangible.
Have you done this already?
Yes, I've done this.
Yeah. So you're speaking out of experience. I like
Yeah, I've done this, and I've also had some help of some great people that supported me in the first certifications, and it's actually then smooth, more or less smooth going. Depends a little bit what you have in place, but yeah, doesn't have to be crazy.
So if we look into the security sector,
Yeah.
there's so many things that we can discuss, so many things that we haven't even touched, not even lightly. But we wanted to give an overview on what's possible, and we wanted to dig deeper in the application security area. I hope we did that, but let's find out. If you have to summarize, or I will help you with the summarization.
There's actually one thing, I guess, like the big thing that we didn't talk about, which is AI.
I forgot one. Oh yeah, Mythos and Mythos. I don't even know how that's
Yeah.
pronounced.
I think this is, I mean, do you think that AI changes something for security?
Yes,
And I guess
I was too fast.
it does, right?
Yeah, it
And
does.
uh, this Mythos thing is, I don't know if it's only just marketing, and I think it's marketing, that, hey, our new model is so capable, we can't actually release it into the wild because it's so capable, right? But on the other hand, it's actually true. If you have those AI agents, they can automatically find security vulnerabilities. And there's also like good parts and bad parts of AI. The
Right.
bad parts is that you can use AI tooling and agents in a very easy manner to just search for CVEs and try to exploit your production systems. And not only you can do this, bad actors can do this as well.
Right.
So, and automate this. And I think that's an hypothesis, but I think the amount of security incidents that we're going to see will go up because of that, because it's so easy to have an army of very well capable hackers hacking into systems. We had this before, but then it was like scripts and stuff, and now it's even more capable. But on the other hand, what you can also use, you mentioned this with SNCC and with pull requests that get reviewed automatically. You can have this with AI as well. So AI can look into your code, the code you generate, and can find whether this code is actually secure or not secure. I've recently talked with a friend of mine, so I also have friends. Not only you have friends, I also have friends, and he also told me that they're using.
I'm your friend.
Yeah, of course. Are you? That's good. But they used a really good tool to review the pull requests regarding the security vulnerabilities. Like many of the alerts that the tool gives you are actually false alerts. But then again, there are some really good remarks about stuff that might have a security impact. And I guess we as companies should and can use that tooling to make sure that we are not, we don't have that large attack surface against these new hacking things, I guess. And that's AI.
We're closing the loop again because you're talking about tools, and we got back to
Yeah,
like a fool.
exactly.
Tool is still a fool.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to use these tools, and they can help us, but we have to understand why we're using them and how to use them. So I'm happy that you mentioned that. Mythos is a big thing.
We should have a session about AI.
I think
Maybe.
we will have a session about AI.
I think also we'll have a session about AI. It seems to be a big thing these days, not only in security. Okay.
Let's go for the summary.
Let's go for the summary. What's important? For me, like most important thing is putting a number to a security risk, so you get the resources to actually fix security, invest in security, and not have any security breaches, hopefully at all. That's That's a
Number one.
takeaway for me.
My next takeaway is you have to understand what you want to keep secure and why you want to keep
Oh,
it
very good
secure.
point. Love this.
Like creating your inventory, having an asset inventory that tells you how to move forward.
Yeah.
Then what else do we have?
Tooling, use tooling, right? You have a lot of standard tooling, but you have also quite advanced tooling that might be useful in your case. AI-based tooling gets better and better each and every day. Use it, and period. Fourth point.
Shift security to the left. Change the mindset. Make security part of everyday software development.
Oh, so
Or
important.
if we want to go into the information security, make your employees always aware that there are threat actors, malicious threat actors that are trying to exploit
Yeah.
you and your behavior. And in security, in application security, it is the software developers that need to learn how to build this into their code, maybe through the help of AI.
Yeah.
But training with something simple like OWASP Top 10 is, I think, already getting you quite far.
That's perfect. And maybe one small thing in brackets is supply chain attacks. So
Yes,
that should, I guess, be part of the training. But the more libraries, the more external dependencies you have, the larger your attack surface will become. And so you have to be aware of that. You have to also upgrade the libraries regularly. But I guess also rule of thumb wise, less libraries, less problems. I guess maybe that sums it up.
different problems, less libraries, different problems.
Yeah, maybe. These means we always write our libraries on our own, right? Because we have just the AI tooling.
We can let AI.
Not just write it on your own, including all the security problems that all the libraries that the AI model learned from have as well.
And all of the maintenance effort that they have to put into.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
Cool. Thanks a lot. That was a really good exchange, I guess.
Likewise. Thanks, Raphael.